Welcome everyone to the demonstration for this approximately Thursday, December 10th, 2020, based on your time zone. And today we're going to be demonstrating the new GitLab charts feature, which is a merge request that has been submitted by Balu. It is, if you're wanting to follow along at home, it is in the charts repository, merge request 1677. And just for giggles, Balu and I decided I'd just do it live here for the first time. Is the best way to do a demo to see if something is straightforward is to just see how bad you trip trying to look at it for the very first time. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. Right. So here is the merge request in question. Now I did cheat a little bit. This is the testing values that Balu said I should bring with me. So here's this, and look over at build. Here's my pages demo. So for this, it's going to be pages.cloud-native.win. Now for this, it says external IP. Don't know what that is yet, so we'll have to reapply that after the fact. So we'll get that from our ingress. And then the secret will be pages TLS. So the way I'm going to start this is to just go ahead and deploy. So this is my basic self-signed. And we're going to install this without pages support. And while that runs, so let's just say I'm a customer. And what I'm going to assume is I have no idea. I'm using the charts because someone said Kubernetes, kind of like the good old cartoon, right? The Dilbert cartoon. Someone said Kubernetes, so I'm going to try it. So according to this documentation, I need to bring a wildcard certificate. And I saw that in my scripts thing, I have a generated certificates. So I'm going to try and use the script that the project provided to generate my wildcard certificate. Because I look at this and I see, hey, I can get a wildcard right here. So with that in mind, let me look at what we got. So we have a service name. And according to this documentation, I need a star.pages.kate's domain. Okay. Star.service name is pages.kate's domain. So, all right. So let us do, let's see. Build, I can keep my stuff. Okay, so service name, page, this pages. Namespace. If I look at namespace, I'll think that's an awfully weird name because I'm a new person, so I have no idea what namespace means in the Kubernetes sense. So namespace, I guess I'll call that cloud native. And then my DNS suffix. There's no thing there, so .win. Okay. So that should give me what I think I expect. And again, for those who may have just joined us, I'm literally doing this as if it's someone who just checked this out for the first time. So I'm kind of role-playing what may be one persona that comes into our repositories. So I'm going to source my cert environment. And then I'm going to generate certificates. So let me just go back to this and check this out. Put it into my working directory. Okay. So let me. Interesting.
Yeah, you didn't have your environment sourced.
Source it in the other window. I did. Wow. Cert name. Haha. So I missed one. Again. All right. Well, I'm going to go with that because I don't know how long I want to sit here and spin, but I will actually look at it one more time. So, cert name. All right.
If you look closely at the script, the documentation explicitly states to pass it as argument 1. This is because cert name is taken from the value of argument 1 and if not present is set to gitlab.
Ah. Interesting that it wrote that quickly. Versus the other time where it took an extra second or so. So we have that in place. Now I need to pages TLS is variable. So let me very quickly remind myself on my own screen here what the methodology for saving a Kubernetes secret is here. So okay, so I'm going to go with control, create secret TLS, and I called it pages TLS cert is slash equals. Okay, so looking at this, here we go. We're not live broadcasting to YouTube as far as I know, so it is okay to show that in the video. Okay, let me bring okay, and this is what I expect because we are not using a validator, we're using a self-signed cert. And I'm going to turn that off. I will ask this, I've noticed this lately. We get this warning, should we just not like turn this off by default? Because default deployment being an open hole feels like a bad idea.
We can't see your screen, so
Yeah.
we don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Did my screen share die? Okay. Sorry. Is it, do you see visibility, access, and controls?
Yes, we can see your screen. We've discussed that warning at the top a bunch of times. We're not touching it.
Okay. So I have turned that off. All right. So here's this. So I'm going to come up over here. I'm going to go to my ingress. This is my IP address. Awesome. So with that said, my external IP is going to be set to that. I have created my Kubernetes secret, and we'll just verify that here. Pages TLS right here. So with that all said, that's all ready. And let's go back here to Helm upgrade. And this is what we have deployed and have shown working. So now we're going to go ahead and add this one. All right. Before I hit that, I'm going to look at my pods. Here we go. So just to recap.
You need a second TACF.
Yes, I do. I did it the first time I typed it in the wrong path. Ah, brains. All right, so that running, you now see the pods are running. So just to recap where we're at, we have modified and adapted the generate certificates wildcard service from what I know to be from the Gitlab service, but what someone would use to, if they were just coming into this new. We have built our wildcard self-signed secret and added it to Kubernetes. And now we are trying to install pages. And there come the pages pods in the migrations pod. So we got a migrations 2 running. Seriously doubt there are any actual migrations running, but yep.
They're in process. It'll just be quick if there's nothing to do. Can you do me a favor and check the ingresses?
Sure.
Okay. Just so we know what the subdomain is provided.
Yep. What I found interesting is that when I relaunched this, it was unhappy. Hmm.
So to be clear, you're going to gitlab.pages.cloudnative.
Nope. I'm going to gitlab.cloudnative.win.
Correct. So you're not going to where your ingress is. Your ingress is gitlab.pages.cloudnative-win.
I'm trying to go just back to the main page. I haven't even set up a pages repo or a checkout yet.
I understand. You set global host's domain, which sets the primary domain. When you set that value to pages dot, it created all of the hosts as subhosts on star.pages.gitlab or star.pages.cloudnative.
So do you? Ew.
Mm-hmm.
Ew. Let's fix that. Let's go back here. Kate's domain. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay. Let's remove this. Sure, I've done that same pull on the ingresses in history somewhere here. Ah.
You may have to wait for the DNS to repopulate because when you change the base domain, external DNS, if in use, would have flipped all of the addresses in the DNS and removed the old ones.
Yep. All right. Well, for now, I'm going to grab the IP address and go to that. Because why not?
Well, Nginx is there.
Yep. Those are still terminating and restarting.
If one of them is up, you should be able to get an answer as soon as your DNS resolves.
That is a deep should. I saw something similar the other night that I noted when testing the upgraded Nginx and ingress going from version 0.20 to 0.41.2, where if there's enough of a change, all the pods for the web service will just stop responding as opposed to rolling over like I would have expected. I did not go back and dig into that more because I was trying to just test the MR.
So what I'm saying here is you did not reload Nginx. So therefore, as soon as Nginx is capable of receiving traffic at the host header as defined by the request, it should at least give you a 502 as opposed to 404 default backend, which you were always going to get when you hit it by IP address. Try doing a curl IV, capital I, lowercase v. Yep. Pretty straightforward. For whatever reason, it doesn't know about this domain. Can you double check DNS is healthy?
Do you mean DNS and the cluster?
No, the cluster's DNS doesn't matter.
I'm looking up at the Google dashboard. It does show that the DNS got updated, so it's looking good on the Google side.
Okay. Do you have dig or NS lookup?
Should.
It loads for me, for what it's worth, in the browser.
Okay, so for giggles, do dig at 1.1.1.1 and then the host name. Okay, so yeah, it's somewhere in your local DNS chain because the other DNS servers see it.
Never done this while on a Zoom stream before. I'm assuming that DNS is already pre-established, so here we
You've
go.
already established connections. You won't break them by flushing DNS.
Yep. All right. Aha. So flushing the cache is, when in doubt, flush your cache. All right. Perfect. Let's create from a template. Somewhere in here, we have a pages Hugo. So, or pages HTML. Let's do the simple one. This one? Yeah. All right. Neon is going to be a public project. We're going to create the project. Okay. Now I have to go back and find the GitLab pages documentation. I've only done it like twice. That's for gitlab.com. I'll just pull this up. I just Googled it. Pages, okay. Work. Project template.
So really, you just need to trigger the pipeline.
Okay. Just gonna go to pipelines. Pipeline. Goes. Do I have runners? According to that, I do. Go look at my runners. All right. So the runner is not attached.
That pod was the task runner, not the GitLab runner. Did you turn off the runners in your YAML configs, your values file?
Yes. Actually, not do that. So Alacrity does not let me do the whole thing where I can show both, but I'm kind of interested to see if this job picks up once that runner comes online. So let's see here. So it's the job stuck waiting for a runner. Here comes the runner. Registering the runner is free.
Might be because it doesn't like your self-signed cert.
Yeah, if you press W to turn on wrap, we might be able to see more.
Yep, unknown authority.
Mitch, there's a trick to that, isn't there?
And if you look at my kind values under examples, if you look at my kind values base.yaml, I think it is, there's a way to specify what secret to use for the runner, I believe. Kind, and then try values base.yaml, I think it is. Should be near the bottom. Try values ssl.yaml. Yeah. So if you pass that, I think you should just be able to pass the name of your. Actually, I believe it creates that wildcard TLS chain by default now. So if you go to your Kubernetes secrets, there should be a secret basically with that exact name.
Depending on how he configured the TLS. Yep. Okay, there it is.
So you can basically just copy paste that, yep, from the values.
What that does is basically injects the certificate contents in to be trusted, so the runner won't have this complaint.
So I will ask this question as a curiosity thing for quality of life improvement. Should we just make that a thing that's default if we're using that self-signed cert?
That may be something that we can get to, or an improvement. I don't know that it's a directly automatable item yet.
I'm only talking about adding it as an issue to schedule for when we can get to it, but
Right.
that sounds like it is. So
we can investigate it. The fact is that you are able to pass one secret name. So if a customer overrides that and they're using self-sign and they try to add a self-sign from somewhere else, they'll end up with a problem. So documentation, in the very least, needs to be added. To be fair, the likelihood that you're using like a half dozen self-signed certificates throughout the broader chart is low in production. Most of the time when you're doing this, you'd be using a custom CA, and you just load the CA and everybody's good.
And for what it's worth, when you're deploying with kind, this does happen automatically. So as long as you use that values file, runner will come up and automatically attach.
That says it's running. Hey,
Nice.
right. So now, if I remember right, the way you get to this is you come over to your settings pages and it will give you that, that link. I'm just going to ask, because I've seen this and I haven't gone back and dig up, why does this say 30 minutes for the site to deploy?
Because this depends on where you are, how your configuration is. On gitlab.com, it could take up to 30 minutes for the background job to repopulate the objects from the artifacts cache into the file system distributed throughout the pages fleet. That's changing.
Okay.
Is it supposed to be HTTP or is it supposed to be over TLS?
So the first thing we should be doing is checking to see if the pages are actually up and running. Now they don't issue a lot of logs, unfortunately. Can you double check the configuration for that pod?
Sure.
Okay. My apologies. We need to check the configuration inside the pod. So pop it into a shell.
Yep.
Let's see. According to the MR, the configuration should be mounted to approximately, etc. Configure script is in its config map. So we're looking for config.erb.
Right here.
Right. So just do a find for config.erb. Okay. Just go ahead and cat it. It's not that long. So the domain is indeed configured as we said. The root for pages is etc. GitLab pages. Okay. Should be on port 8090. HTTP2 is yes. I do not see the configuration that explicitly sets HTTPS because Pages isn't serving HTTPS itself. And it is trying to hit the external API, which is good. GitLab server is the external URL. Okay. Domain config source says GitLab. This is good. This is expected. Okay. So now that we know that Pages is actually up and running as a container with some possibly questionable config, let's go ahead and exit out of the container and check the Nginx logs on the controllers. See where it is sending the traffic, or where it is attempting to send the traffic, I should say.
Another thing to check might be the deploy job. I know we had checked out the Pages job, but there should have been another job that launched after that, just to see if it actually passed or not. That looks like it did.
Yeah, there's Pages deploy gets like no logs. You just see that it passed or did not.
Hey, Robert, when you get a moment, try to dig that host name you tried to go to. I'm showing in Google's DNS dashboard that the IP is still something bizarre, like previous installation.
That actually might make sense. So let me pull that up over here. Is showing this on the screen share? Is that going to be a thing? Let's see here. So because I use our cloud native domain for pretty much every demo and every test.
We'll be fine.
So
Go under network, keep going down.
yep, I always forget where they store this stuff.
Network services.
Cloud DNS.
Yep.
I'm almost positive that I set this manually at some point. This right here is manually set a record. So is the thing where if I remove that record and then rerun the job, will it create it?
Are you using external DNS to automate your DNS config?
Yes.
Looks like he is, given this text records there.
Right. If he
I think
is,
you
then
want
yeah, it's a
that.
matter of just deleting the original.
Yeah, and I think you want that first one gone too, the star pages.
That one?
Yeah, that's the primary one you want gone.
Yep.
And then it'll just recreate itself?
External DNS should do a configuration cycle, which should regenerate that. However, this UI does not auto-update.
Yay. Is there a way to force this to?
You could manually restart the external DNS pod, and it would correct itself, but it's more than likely in a different namespace.
So this one? Delete the pod and it should come back. There we go.
All right, I see it did get updated, has a text record, so external DNS created correctly, it looks like.
All right, so that's good.
You're probably gonna have to kill your cache again. Your
Correct.
There's here. Is there anything? There's only logs there. Also, I'm going to run another one. It's running.
Okay. I apologize. I looked away. What did you get in the web browser when you tried it?
It can't be reached.
Okay, so that's a DNS problem. That's not a.
It's coming up over on my side.
So destroy my cache down. Let me go here. Go back to the same thing.
Okay, so the probe is failing. Let's go manually query your DNS.
Blocking. So we want to look at routes.pages.cloudnative.web. So here's my local. Here's digging off of window.
You probably want to not use the URL.
For the record, whoever thought that copy pasting should automatically append stuff out of browsers, mistakes were made. All right, so we got, this is digging off 111. So yeah, my answer section is totally missing it.
This is the joy of DNS. Due to hierarchy, it's entirely possible that it's not your local system at this point, but rather your router or your ISP that has got an old cache and they're in the process of pulling down new record as you try. But due to the nature of DNS and TTLs being time to live, if it gets removed here and they need to update it here, your cache can be clean, but now it can't resolve it. Now it's waiting. Yay!
All right, so someone says that they can see it. Those DJ, right?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
want
and
me to
I
share
also
my
have it up
screen?
here too.
I'm going to stop my screen share and let somebody screen share for a second just to prove to the posterity of the video that, yes, we can see this.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Yay.
There we have it.
Yeah. So off by 1 errors in DNS, always the answer. Okay. So I think that overall, I'll declare this a working. Most of the issues encountered were just typical systematic. I'll think on whether or not that would be something that we could translate to. Let me turn my. Think about whether to translate that to things that we can document. That would be a follower to this, not part of this. Overall, though, quite successful. Stuff went in. Is there anything else you want to kick the tires on? We are at 11:17, so we're about 15 minutes past the demo end hour.
I would like to know about an application feature flag. Previously, now it's possible that recent versions of Pages and even Master on Rails have changed this, but for the last month, you actually had to set 1 or even 2 application feature flags for Pages to serve directly from artifact storage. Did you at any point need to set that? Or
No.
set anything like it?
I set nothing. What you saw is what we did.
Okay. Can we pop into the task manager and let's just see which application flags are actually on?
task runner, right?
Yes.
Okay. My ears heard task manager, which confused me for a second. So just making sure. Okay. And what do you want to look at?
Papa Rails console. Sorry, I'm looking for the command that you will need to be able to actually run.
No worries. Hopefully, by the time you find it, Rails console will have fully loaded.
Right. This is the joy of Rails. No matter what we do, we can only make it so fast.
I am curious, is this Rails general, or is this the fact that we have like a couple hundred gems loaded?
It's a little bit of both. What command did you run? Oh, yeah. So you need GitLab. No. Space. Mm-hmm.
Like that?
Yep. Well, that fired up nice and quick this time around. I am not actually seeing a nice way to get all of the feature flags. I only see how to get them one by one. All right, let me go see what the current documentation on what those feature flags are.
Well, how do you get the one by one?
Yeah, you get them one by one using feature, capital F, feature.enabled question mark, and then the string, which I will have to fetch you said string.
While you do that, I'm going to.
Hey, that kind of not really what we get.
No, but while you're
Yeah.
looking, I can see.
No argument.
Yeah, what does .all do there?
There is one present and turned on. That's enough, actually. Interestingly, it looks like they may have automatically flipped this. Finally. Okay. Well, apparently the feature flag may no longer be needed. Well then, for giggles, let's increase the scale of the GitLab pages deployment. Does it have an HPA?
I think I remember seeing one here.
Yes.
There
Okay.
is.
So what we'll do is to not have to redeploy with Helm, we'll just go edit the HPA directly. You need : HPA. Please hit escape. Now call an HPA.
Pages.
Okay. So edit that one. Go down to set the min replicas to 3. No, not 300. Watch the cluster die. Blech.
So status.
Right, so now just WQ. Should see more pages come up. Go back to the HPAs.
Oh, they just as we left.
Of course. Lesson in patience.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a long walk between the Cube API server and back.
Okay. Everybody ready your browsers. We're going to generate some load.
And Robert, the TTL on those records are 300 seconds, so by now you should be able to get there, I would think.
Yeah. Pro tip for developers, we should probably document how to set the TTLs with external DNS so that they're not 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody who has a browser window available and can join in, there's our URL, root.pages.cloud. Can you go ahead and just copy the URL to the chat? We can all click on it.
I can find the chat. That's the grid. That's. Come on, Zoom.
I got it for you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard.
If it will paste. There
I
we go.
beat ya. Fun with Zoom UI. It's like, whoa. So
right.
I just have a question. If we're trying to generate load, so couldn't we just also do this with like a?
We could, but I'm looking for parallel multi-origin load. I'm literally just looking for everybody to go, ready? F5.
Okay.
Yes, we could use Apache Bench, but let's, we don't need to go that far. It's a simple demonstration. Okay, what I would like you to do, Robert,
Yep.
is to go back to K9S.
Okay.
Okay, so what I want to see is that actual work is being done by more than one GitLab Pages instance and that everybody's getting successful returns on the objects. That's what I'm looking for. I'd get a chance to say that.
Okay.
So whenever anybody is ready, just mash F5 a couple of times. Okay.
So Linux in there and Macintosh. That one's getting fixed up. So let me go look at this one.
Okay, so we're definitely seeing Nginx passing load. Let's just look at the CPU loads that we're actually seeing here.
CPU load.
Yeah, just sit on the pods. Don't go into a log, just sit on the pods. There's a CPU percentage right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is the important thing, because we're seeing CPU loads north of 10. When it's sitting idle, it's around 3 or 4. So it's distributing load, and I'm not hearing anybody saying that their requests are failing. Why does this matter? You might ask. Architecturally speaking, the way Pages used to work is that you would actually write this into the file system somewhere, and then Pages would serve from the file system. Hence, Pages couldn't work in Cloud Native due to the NFS requirement. When they moved to doing this through artifact storage, they initially took it, and instead of literally taking the output bundle, sticking it in artifacts, and then Sidekicks comes along, pulls the artifact down, extracts it, and writes it to the file system. Now they simply skip the sidekick job, and they make sure that it's deployed into the correct location. Pages asks GitLab for the configuration instead of expecting it to be written on the file system with the files, and then actually serves directly from chunks in object storage. By ensuring that multiple pods can be handling traffic at the same time by the method that we all collectively just did, what we're doing is confirming that we're not having a problem with individual pods having a specific cache or having access to state. We're proving that Pages actually is able to operate in an entirely stateless fashion.
So there's no copy of the artifacts in these containers.
Nope.
It's cool.
And then I guess at the end of the day, object storage is handling how fast they can serve out from its side.
Essentially, yes. So, for example, if you look at the mini-IO, which is handily right smack dab between the two gray lines, if we start doing the refresh again, you'll see a small spike. Mini-IO has crap logs. Please do not look at the logs. You'll see a very small spike in the load on that pod when it refreshes. Very small, but you're I'm like, it's not even showing me the load from mine, of course.
Yeah.
But essentially we're limited at that point by the amount of time it takes for Pages to go, you're asking for this component off of this page, go ask GitLab. GitLab says, oh, that's over here, goes to the object, reads the chunk index, and then reads the chunk out of it. And then that serves back to you. Because we're not doing object storage redirection. We're actually reading the chunk out, expanding it, and then serving you the content.
All right,
Yeah.
So,
I'd say that works.
yep. Do we have any other questions?
The only small thing was that the GitLab UI offered you an HTTP link. I was curious if it always says HTTP or if it should have given you an HTTPS link.
You actually have to tell GitLab that you're expecting to run Pages over HTTPS. The reason being that GitLab Pages has the ability to serve custom domain SSL certificates. So the current implementation of the chart uses an ingress as opposed to directly exposing itself to the internet. As a result, it can actually use SSL through Nginx for the base Pages domain. In the event that you wanted to use a custom one like, pages.nip or pages.ip address of external.nip.io and serve SSL over that, the Nginx doesn't know about whatever those custom ones are on a per project basis. We don't have a way to load extra TLS certificates into it, and it would actually turn around and go, I can't serve HTTPS on this because I don't have a certificate for it. And it would go back to its default one, and then you'd get a complaint like self-signed Nginx ingress or Kubernetes ingress doesn't match the hostname. So we actually have to do that in the next stages to actually make it possible to serve HTTPS. So the UI saying HTTP is actually correct. It's the browser that's going, let me try HTTPS, and if it's not there, I'll go back to HTTP. It's an automatic upgrade behavior in most modern browsers. So unless you specifically say HTTPS, it will try that first.
And I believe Balu called that out in the testing notes as well, somewhere.
Okay, hold on. Right there.
Here.
Note that this is not a limitation when Pages actually runs external to the charts, because we're running Pages as its own daemon, so it already has all of that stuff.
So I'm fairly convinced that it works. So I'll take a look. I guess the next step for me as the reviewer is to see if there's any naming style, other things from our decision records that I would quibble with. And then, yeah, it looks good to me from a functional standpoint right now. So, and unless there are more questions, that concludes today's demo. So I'll leave it open for Crickets 1, Crickets 2. All right. Well, thank you all for coming to this week's demo, and we'll see you next week.